Uncle Josh Snap, what's up on Black Power, family? What up? It's your brother in Google, now you see RNM, and once again, you're tuned in to RNM, RBG, TV. We keep it G. Raw and uncut common sense for the common people. Dealing with the common issues, family, you already know we're trying to seek those common solutions. That's right. Here we go. So all in together now, family, say nice, loud, and proud. What's the method? The motto, marching motivation, and the madness. You already know I can't say it enough, family, so say it along with me. You should know, family, that it is black love, and black love is the cure for the black nation. So let's get it. Alright. So today, first and foremost, I want to do it like this, man. Shout out to my homie, man, out there repping that SERBG, man. South Carolina, stand up. SHAKEM, AHKET. What it is, homeboy? You got some words early today, man. Well, early within the last 24 hours that I've seen. And I see that is very, 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 very vital and important for this times that we're living in. And I'm not necessarily just talking about this era. I'm talking about these specific times. I'm talking about the last few days, weeks, months, etc. There's been a lot of bullshit going on, family. Been a lot of bullshit going on. You already know, every now and then, from time to time, we gotta slow down. You understand? We gotta slow down, reprogram, regroup, so we can carry on. One of the things that we need to slow down with is the way that we deal with one another. And I'm talking about from comrade to comrade. I'm not even talking about the people at large, the family at large, who we're supposed to be reaching out to. But I'm talking about how we deal with one another as comrade and comrade, so on, you know, quote unquote. So with that being said, SHAKEM, brother SHAKEM, you up next, man. It's time to let your, you know what I'm saying, let your words be heard on RNMORBG TV. He has given it the title of, you don't have to act like, excuse my language, you don't have to act like a nigga to reach niggas in the street. That's his title. I respect it, and we're gonna leave it just like that. Brother SHAKEM, you up next. RNMORBG TV, this your brother in Google, now you see RNM. Keep it locked, keep it G, you already know we keep it G. Uncle Johnson never always remember that family, that black love is the cure for the black nation. So let's get it.
Peace and black power, family. It's your brother SHAKEM, I'm in AHKET. Right black at you once again. I really felt compelled to do this myth-busting segment on the fallacy of us thinking that we essentially have to be or act like a nigga in order for us to reach brothers on the street. It's sad that we would think like that, and it's sad that we would hold this type of sentiment. There's a quote on wisdom. Wisdom is not expecting people to understand what your intent is, but it's anticipating how it will be perceived. Once again, wisdom is not expecting people to understand what your intentions are, but it's anticipating how it will be perceived by others. Now, a lot of us have been in the streets. We've been a so-called street nigga. We understand what it entails. We understand the dangers of being a street nigga. We understand the level of ignorance that it takes to actually be a street nigga. We understand that there's a lot of baggage that comes with being a street nigga. So once you become conscious, the ultimate goal is to raise yourself above that level of being a street nigga into one who moves and acts in accord with the laws of the universe on my eye. So there's a lot of mixed messages and mixed signals actually in the movement right now. And we need to really deal with it understandably, Because the more and more we have these mixed signals and mixed messages coming out, we're going to be confusing young brothers in the street, and they're going to think that it's acceptable to don or display this type of behavior. They're going to think that this type of behavior is something that they can hold on to and at the same time continue to profess a level of consciousness even though they have not abdicated or refrained from engaging in that type of attitude of a street nigga. And this is why a lot of the male ego and male aggression still proceeds or is in the conscious community today. A lot of that street nigga mentality deals with that male aggression. The male aggression on whether or not I can take this person out or whether or not I can do this to that person. And once we still have that feeling of male aggression and wanting to be superior and wanting to be always right and wanting to be the biggest and baddest, if we don't understand that part of male aggression and how it plays a role in being a street nigga, when you cross over into consciousness, you'll still harbor that mentality of that male aggression, and then you'll want to dominate over your brothers and sisters who you should be trying to be in accord with. You won't understand that there's such thing as a righteous competition. You don't have to, always seek to tear a brother down. It's not always about that. There's something that we can do together, that we can build each other up while still challenging each other and expressing and trying to build out to build up the human potential in others. If you notice, a lot of the brothers in the conscious community, we always want to say that in order for us to reach these young brothers and sisters out here, we have to act like them and we have to speak like them. Historically, show me one leader that has. Marcus Garvey did not go in the streets and conduct himself like a street nigga when he reached the masses of the people. No, he didn't have to. They respected Marcus Garvey because of the vision that he had and the desire that he had to want to see his people go free. Look at Minister Malcolm X. Minister Malcolm X came from a background like most of us. He went to prison. Minister Malcolm X was a thief. Minister Malcolm X was a robber. Minister Malcolm X was a dope pusher. He was a dope peddler. But after he made his change and he ascended into that level of godhood, he didn't go out in the streets and act the way how they were acting in the streets. Malcolm X showed them another side of a man who could come from that place of depression in the penitentiary. He showed them that someone can come from the depths of the darkness of turmoil and frustration and languishing in a jail cell and turn his life around and challenge a system that was built on white supremacy and still maintain his professionalism. He didn't go in the streets and start hanging and selling drugs with them. He didn't go in and started, adopting their behaviors. He had the influence to make them want to adopt his behavior.
Gut check.
So now we have to really ask ourselves, are we influencing the streets to become like us, or are the streets still influencing us to act like them?
Gut check.
I don't think a lot of you heard me. Let me rephrase that or reiterate that expression once again.
Say it again, bro.
Are we influencing the streets to act like us, or is the street influencing us to act like them?
Gut check.
When you come into the conscious community, there's an expectation of behavior that automatically is placed on you by brothers and sisters in the street. And we don't really know it, and we don't really think about it, but the brothers and sisters in the streets, they know what it is. They know how a conscious brother is supposed to act. They know this, see, but we think that they're so lost that they don't know. It's just like a Christian brother. If a brother goes in the street and says he's a Christian, automatically niggas in the street or brothers and sisters in the street, they know how you're supposed to act. So now, if I'm telling somebody that I'm conscious and I'm going in the community and I'm doing the same things that they're doing, why would they want to join on to what I'm doing? Because I'm steadily trying to appease them and act like them. There has to be some sort of demarcation line that we have to draw between ourselves and the streets. There has to be some sort of limitation that we have to make sure that we aren't encouraging brothers and sisters who are in the streets from coming into the community and further damaging the reputation of our community. We have to let them know that there's some sort of transmogrification, or there's some sort of transformation that must occur when you say that you are now entering into the ranks of God. There has to be a level of righteousness that one must obtain. There has to be a shedding of that old skin that you once embellished in and you wrapped yourself in, and then you have to take off that and cloak yourself with the armor of a God. But they're not understanding that concept because we're allowing them to maintain that same behavior. We're allowing them to give an excuse of being a gangbanger so they can still bang their old colors and then fly the red, black, and green at the same time. You must give up something.
Gut check.
You got to give it up. You can't continue to say that you are in the street organization that has a history of selling drugs and killing people and bashing people and robbing people and doing drug deals and going down in federal prisons. You can't say that you are still flying or representing the colors of a wicked, crooked street organization and then at the same time fly a red, black, and green flag. It doesn't add up. We can't continue to do that. In no circumstances, you can't do that. Brother says sometimes you do. I disagree, and I'm going to tell you why. Anytime you try to mix truth and falsehood, it's always going to come out on the side of falsehood because truth is unadulterated. If you feel like that you have to don a crook, if you have to still represent an organization that's backed by evil vices that's been created by the European, then you can't say that you're God because you are still engaging in acts that were put together by the devil to make you a nigger. You cannot embrace a nigger side of yourself and still claim to be God. I know we all have vices. We all have vices. We all do things that aren't in accord with total righteousness, but still, you have to work to strive and maintain a level of perfection in your life so that when people come out and they see you, they will say, you know what? A brother has made a transformation. If you really want to have attraction power to the streets, you can let the streets know where you came from, where you started, but you can't let them see that you stayed there. You can't continue to actually, mimic them. You have to show them, hey, this is where I was. I took these steps in order to restructure my life. I took these steps in order to change myself and to now embrace my family. I've taken these steps to go away from the principles of the street organization that I once, backed so dearly, and then I adopted the principles of the ancestors. You have to live the life of your ancestors, not living the life of a blood or a crip. You can't embrace that ideology and then turn around and embrace Pan-Africanism. That's totally opposite of Pan-Africanism. And as long as we continue to embrace a culture of niggertude, and we think that we have to speak like them, and we think that we have to act like them in order to get their attention, is a fallacy. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was a guru at going into the streets and raising the levels of brothers and sisters, you did not see him speak their language in a way that they were going to think that he was exactly like them. He spoke another language. He came to them and said, guess what, black man? You are God. That type of language is what he wanted to put forth into the universe, into the atmosphere. And when he put those words into the atmosphere, the people who were in the streets said, you know what? This is a powerful young man. The streets are attracted to brothers and sisters who have previously lived that lifestyle, but then they had the gall and the fortitude to turn it around and make themselves into something better. Everybody likes success stories. Success stories are the stories that make people want to embrace you and want to embrace your goal and want to embrace your vision. These examples of people overcoming difficulties are the examples that young brothers and sisters see, that they follow, that they, listen to, and they are inspired by you. We're not understanding that the inspiration of those who are in the street doesn't come from saying or talking how they talk or walking like how they walk. That inspiration comes from giving them a seed of hope to say that this condition that I'm in now, I don't have to stay there. Leaders are supposed to be inspirers. We are supposed to inspire the people, to give them a ray of hope that they don't have to continue to languish in that condition that they're in. They don't have to continue to sell drugs. They don't have to continue to look over their shoulder. They don't have to continue to fight and kill one another. They don't have to continue to run from the police. They don't have to continue to be in a situation to where they're engulfed in poverty and don't know how to get themselves out of it. A real leader who comes from the street knows that you don't have to necessarily speak the language of the street. You can speak the language of the street, but then you let them know that you found a way out, and that way out that you found is something that you can give to them as far as informational purposes for them to turn around and pull themselves out the mud. But you can't have a person in the mud and then jump in the mud with them and swim together and think that that person is going to respect you. When I was in the streets, if I had a brother coming to me who said that he was conscious and he comes and he's trying to act like me, I'm not going to see any benefit into what he's doing because he's steadily trying to be like me. So if you're trying to be like me, why do I need to adopt your ideology of black power, or black nationalism, or black consciousness, when the whole time me and you talking, you doing more cursing than me. You acting more stupid than me. And a lot of brothers who've been in the penitentiary, we know that we have nothing to prove. I don't have nothing to prove to some young brother on the street who's selling dope. I don't have to prove that I'm more gangster than you. I don't have to prove that I can be more of a nigga than you. I don't have anything to prove to any brother and sister on the street who's out there selling drugs. The only thing that I have to prove to this young brother or this young sister is that they can pull themselves out of the mud the same way that I pulled myself out the mud. In order to connect with this young brother and sister, I don't have to curse 1,000 times. I don't have to go and sag my pants. I don't have to do none of that foolishness because they're not looking at that side of me to accept me. They're looking at what I'm doing now, and that's going to be the determining factor on whether or not they want to follow the path that I'm on right now. But the problem is, we're so busy trying to portray something that we're really not. We're too busy trying to follow down the footsteps of these so-called gangsters and hustlers and pimps and drug dealers who have this respect on the street, and they use their respect on the street as credentials in order for them to be able to have some sort of power over those who don't have those street credentials. So what the conscious community does is when brothers come in the conscious community, they feel as though they have to have more street credentials to go out in the community to prove to the community that you're just as tough as them. Right? This is where the male aggression comes in. So now I go on the street, I'm screaming, black power. Yeah, my nigga. What's up, my nigga? What's up, dog? Peace. You know what I'm saying? Grabbing your nuts. How you gonna be a conscious brother in the streets and you out there in the corner with the other dudes and you out there grabbing your nuts, smoking a cigarette, talking about black power? How does that make somebody want to be like you? Huh? That's right. The brother said the blind are leading the blind. Show me one leader in history that has ever built a successful movement by copying or mimicking the attitude of the streets. Somebody right now on this live video, show me one black leader in history that has ever solidified his legacy by going in the streets and acting like a street nigga. No, not, man, Dr. Malachi York didn't do that. Exactly, there is none. Dr. Malachi, he went with the most extreme intelligence. This brother was right, whether you agree with him or not, but Dr. Malachi York did not go in the streets acting like a nigga. He went in the streets communicating a message of God and a message of overcoming the mentality of being bogged down in the desires of the flesh. That's what Malachi York actually taught. But what I'm saying again, show me one leader that has ever solidified, signed, sealed, and delivered his legacy on being a nigga in the streets. And for every example that I can show you, that you try to put up, I can show you where brothers who were in the streets went and did the total opposite. Let's start with the Black Panther Party. Let's look at Brother Huey P. Newton, right? Huey P. Newton was from the street. But in the writings of Huey P. Newton and the way how they set up their patrols and the way how he dialogued with the media and the way how he dialogued with the streets and the way how he dialogued with white society and the way how he explicated himself when he was talking about police brutality and police terrorism, and when he sat down and he penned these books on how the black man and the black woman condition needs to be helped and what they can do to actually increase their movement. The Black Panther Party, you did not see anywhere in his writings where he tried to act like a nigga. Huey P. Newton didn't do that. He was able to get brothers and sisters out of the street by showing them discipline. It's about discipline. People are attracted to us by the way we discipline ourselves. The sisters are attracted to brothers who are able to display a high level of discipline, right? So when you can say, hey, I once was very loose. I once was a drug addict. I once, used cocaine. I once snorted dope. I once shot heroin. I once popped pills. And then when the brothers and sisters in the streets see you and they say, you know what? I used to know SHAKEM back in the day. The dude was an addict. I used to know brother such and such. They was an addict. When you see that and then you see that transformation, you start asking yourself, damn, I wonder what did that sister do? I wonder what did that brothers do? I wonder what did they do to help them make their mind into something that is more righteous versus staying in that state. And when they see you actually making those gains, they now want to be like you. But you don't gain any respect or any more respect from going in the community and looking like how they look. That doesn't give you respect. That only makes them think that they can bring these same vices in the community and it be acceptable. And the problem is when more and more of these people that accept using drugs, that accept snorting blow, that accept the foul rhetoric, when you see more and more people begin to accept that, then a lot of times what that does is it makes the movement dull itself down. It dumbs itself down because now you got brothers who are flying their gang flags in the movement and then they still think that it's cool. And the more and more people that think it's cool, they now join into the movement and they say, you know what, I'm Crip /RBG. I'm Blood /RBG. I'm Folk /RBG. Now what's going to end up happening is that you're going to see brothers start taking the red, black, and green, and then they're going to start adding in their own colors. So then what happens is you're going to see you got the Crip RBG. Then you're going to start seeing you got the Blood RBG. Then you're going to start seeing you got the Folk RBG. Then you're going to start seeing you got the Vice Lord RBG. Now what's going to happen is that the gang culture is going to seep its way into, bam, a civil war. And I'm about to get to that. Then you're going to start seeing people infiltrate the Pan-African culture with the gang culture. And then now you're going to see civil war start ensuing. Now you got VL RBG fighting Crip RBG. Then you're going to have Blood RBG. They're going to start fighting whatever. But what's going to happen is that these gang wars are going to eventually break out under the name or under the banner of RBG. And what's going to happen is now the government will eventually come in and start shutting things down, because they are going to say these are street organizations and start levying penalties that they use to already go and outlaw these street organizations now. So we got to start being careful on what type of behaviors we deem acceptable in our organization. We have to start drawing lines. You doubt that? Well, you know what? If you doubt that, then guess what? You haven't been in the RBG movement long enough. Everything that I'm saying will manifest itself. Listen, I've been in the streets so long that I've seen, look what happened to the Moore Science Temple. The Moore Science Temple, it ended up doing the same thing. You don't remember how the gang organizations crept its way into the Moore Science Temple? What do you think you... Come on, man. Do the history. The Black Peace Stone Rangers. Look at how, the street organizations have crept into the Black Power or conscious movement. And the more and more that we deem it acceptable, then people are going to allow this to happen. If you don't believe me, just go and continue to watch. Now, we should be doing everything that we can to stomp it out, to make sure that it doesn't get to that level, but you can see it going on and on every day. You can see it playing out. Like I said before, wisdom is not expecting people to understand what your intent is. Wisdom is anticipating on how it's going to be received. So now when you start talking about leadership, right? A brother made a good point. He said it depends on the leadership in the area. So now, with the leadership that we currently have, our movement is a young, budding movement. We're just really catching a lot of steam. When any movement begins to catch steam and movements begin to grow, you have people who don't really understand the history of how the movement began. They don't really understand the principles on which the movement was built. Right now, you got a lot of people flying red, black, and green flags and screaming RBG, but they really don't understand how these movements were born. They don't understand where they came from. They don't know how they were built. They don't understand the philosophy of where RBG actually came from. And through their lack of understanding how RBG came, they really can't see the vision of Pan-Africanism and how it's supposed to unfold. That is why you see a lot of the mannerisms that you see. You see a lot of the behaviors that you see. You see a lot of the male aggression coming from not understanding what the movement should be built upon. You start seeing misogyny because in the streets, men see women who sell dope as being weak and they're easy prey. That's why when we used to see a woman selling drugs, the first thing we thought is we're gonna rob her. Anytime you saw a woman out in the streets as a brother in the game being a male, when you see a woman with a kilo of cocaine or half a kilo of cocaine, the first thing you do is you say, I'm gonna rob her. That's because you don't see women in the streets being equal as brothers in the streets. You see them as being a weaker vessel. So that mentality, when you come into the conscious community, it remains the same. So the same way how you perceived the woman while she was in the streets, when you turn around and you join the conscious community, you're going to think the same way because you have not built your understanding on the way how the founders of Pan-Africanism built their ideology. Your understanding comes from how you function as a street organization. And since the brothers who got you in the movement still hold on to the virtues of a street organization, they're not ready to correct that behavior because they still adopt that behavior themselves. So now all you see is the perpetuation of the attitude of a street organization into the Black Power movement.
Gotcha.
But it's going to take individuals who are going to take a stand and say, we are not going to allow you to act like a nigga all day, every day, and then expect to be recognized in the Black Power community. Like I said, it's good to laugh and joke, and we trip, and I know we do things, we drink, and we chill out and hang out with each other. That's all good. But then we have to understand that we have to guard our reputation as much as possible. You have to protect your reputation at all costs. Whatever I do in my home is not for public viewing. It's not really for social media. There are certain things that when you do in the privacy of your own home, it needs to stay in the privacy of your own home. Like I said, 99% of us say that we are for African-centered education. 99% of the Black Power community is for African-centered education. But then, how is it that we can be for African-centered education, but the level of education that we display on social media does not show that African-centered education is something that we really take seriously? How can me as an adult say that I want to adopt an African-centered education type of lifestyle in my family, but get on social media and everything I do conflicts with the principle that is taught in an African-centered education institution? Let me say that again. 99% of the individuals on Facebook say that they are for African-centered education. I myself am an advocate of African-centered education, just like 99% of the rest of the populace in the Black Power community. But yet, when you see the type of behavior that we engage in on social media, you have to ask yourself, are you really an advocate of African-centered education? The way that I speak and communicate with my brothers and sisters and social media, is that conducive to African-centered education? The way how we resolve disputes on social media in the Black Power community, is that conducive to African-centered education? Now I'm looking at the man in the mirror at this because I myself have not always been an expert in displaying the utmost type of right behavior on social media, but I have people around me that are willing to check me, and then I humble myself to that. But if you understand what it takes to be an African-centered educator, and you understand how you're supposed to act, and you understand how you're supposed to walk, you understand how you're supposed to talk, you understand how you're supposed to dress, you understand how you're supposed to react during situations of conflict, you understand how leaders are supposed to guide people. If you get on social media and you contradict everything that an African-centered education teaches, you can't be an advocate of African-centered education. It starts with yourself. Now, another thing, the brother mentioned something about leadership. In my opinion, leaders are always born in the time of conflict, in the time of confusion, in the time of fight, turmoil. Leaders are born during times of conflict. Leaders are born during time of tough challenges. Leaders show that they have the ability to climb a mountain when the odds are against them. Leaders have the ability to maintain stoicity, or leaders have the ability to maintain their poise when they're challenged by the enemy. And in the face of the enemy, real leaders always step up to the challenge versus stepping down to the challenge. It's just like in sports, right? Some of your greatest athletes are the ones that are able to shine when the game is on the line. In the fourth quarter, with 2 minutes left, the greatest leaders step up to the plate and drive their team down 99 yards to score the winning touchdowns. The great leaders, they step up. They could be having a bad game the whole game, but in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game, the leader steps up and he grabs the ball. He might have missed 15 shots the whole game, but he sinks the game winner. That is how leaders are born. Leaders show themselves to be able to rise above the standards of normalcy during times when they have to be high performers. So in order for us to say that we are going to lead in the new millennium, in the RBG movement, we have to rise above the normalcy of our people wanting to be niggas, wanting to be hustlers, wanting to be drug dealers. We have to totally rise above that behavior, because it's that behavior that's damaging and critically wounding us right now. And that's why people are not respecting our movement the way how they should.
Gotcha.
They're not respecting it because we have a bunch of niggas running around here with all this male aggression built up within themselves, wanting to fight each other, wanting to go in at each other's throat. We have all of this male aggression going on, and the women are sitting back looking at us like we're just some crazy, egotistical, arrogant group of brothers fighting each other. That's what the women are looking at us as. And as long as the women are looking at us while we're in this lost state and we're supposed to be conscious, we're going to see our movement steady growing to a halt. And the more and more that the women are losing trust in us, guess who now is going to lose trust in us? The children are going to begin to lose their trust in us, because the children see us actually donning the same behavior that they have. So your child goes to school and gets in these school fights with other children and going back and forth with the name calling. They're going back spewing out foul rhetoric to each other. And then they jump on social media and they see me doing the same thing. Are children going to be attracted to us in the movement who say we have a message of uplifting to our people when we can't even get on social media and act like we're civilized? Not to say that we're going to ever live in a perfect world, because a perfect world, we're not going to live in it. But the thing is, we have to continue to guard our reputation with our life. Reputation is something that's so important because it actually precedes you. So if a brother says, hey, I got a wonderful brother you need to meet, the brother's name is SHAKEM. Before you met me, you already heard 10 good things about me. So what happens is, when you meet me, your level of respect is already going to be to a place to where you're going to embrace me with a warm heart and a pure soul and a conscious mind to love me and to want to grab hold of me and take me in as your brother, because I have guarded my reputation with my life, because I know my reputation precedes me. And this has a reverse effect also. If your reputation is being one of a nasty individual who has a foul mouth, who's engaged in a lot of tomfoolery, who has an attitude of male aggression and misogyny, if that reputation precedes me, when somebody is ready to meet me, they're going to say, man, I've heard 1,000 nasty things about this brother. So even if I do decide to change my behavior, that reputation that I've already built up is going to be out there in the atmosphere floating around. So guess what? When people meet me, they're going to speak to me with caution, because the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, you know what? Watch for SHAKEM, the dude is a shit starter. Or watch for this person, because you know that person is grimy. Watch for this brother, he always stays in social media beef. Watch this brother, he's always known for trying to get at the women. You got to watch this brother, because such and such and such.
Are y'all listening?
So when we lose focus on how important it is to build up a reputation of respect, you're going to see us lose steam in the movement. If there's one thing that we can strive for as a community, it should be to maintain our integrity. Integrity should be rule number one when we're trying to find or forge a new path in the conscious community or in the pro-black community and reach out to other communities. We should always operate with high integrity. Now, some might not understand the definition of integrity, but the definition of integrity is doing something that you, making sure that, okay, whatever you do in public, you should be able to do the same thing behind closed doors. That's sort of like maintaining your integrity. So if a lot of people are watching me, I know to be on my utmost behavior. If people are watching me, when I come out the bathroom, I know I'm going to wash my hands because people are watching me. If I know that people are watching me, then I'm going to hold my standards a little higher because I'm in public purview. So now what happens is, if nobody's in my house, and then I piss on my hand and walk out the door, I didn't think anybody saw me. So guess what? I'm inclined not to wash my hands because I don't have integrity. So integrity is being able to to perform duties that are incumbent upon you to perform, not only in public, but behind closed doors. I hope I kind of explained that in a good way. But whenever we want to maintain our integrity, we have to make sure that this is at the forefront of our minds whenever we go and we reach the community. That is understanding Ma'at and the laws of Ma'at. And as we try to influence brothers and sisters in the street, understand that how we win their influence is by showing them that we're disciplined. When we want to reach brothers and sisters in the street who are living in a state, are living a decrepit lifestyle, the way how we win them is showing them that we have overcome a challenge that has actually killed 55% of us who are now in the prison system. We have to show them that, you know, our connection with them is not being a street nigga, but our connection with them is built on from having been a street nigga, but we've restructured our mind. We've ironed out all the kinks of falsehood. We've washed our brains of white supremacy. We've cleaned out all of our impure thoughts that will lead us to use drugs and to have abuse of alcohol and to abuse women. We have to let these individuals on the street know that yes, you might in fact indeed be a street nigga, but guess what? What I've transmogrified or transformed myself in today is way beyond or is 3 times greater than being a street nigga. We have to let them know that I once was lost, but guess what? Now I'm found. And that's what a Christian uses to get their people out of the street. They let them know that their condition is not permanent. We have to let them know that that condition of negritude is not permanent, that they can earn, that they can work themselves out of that mentality. We must let them know with encouraging words that they don't have to adopt that mentality of shooting each other and killing each other. We need to let them know that that's not cool. We need to let them know that we are advocates against gang violence. We need to let them know that we are advocates against male aggression. We have to let them know that we are advocates against the behaviors that they're currently embracing. We have to separate ourselves from the streets in order for the streets to respect us. Our influence has to outweigh them at all times. We need to let any individual on the street know that we have the keys to success. And I remember, as a Christian, remember there was a verse in the Bible that said, I think it was Paul, but he said, when I was a child, I thought like a child, and I spoke like a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. How many of you remember that scripture in the Bible? Paul said, when I was a child, I thought like a child, and I spoke like a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Now we have to fast forward, 2016. When I was unconscious, I was a drug dealer. I was a gang banger. But then, when I became conscious, I began to change my way of thinking so I do not attach that label to myself because I know I'm a king.
Gotcha.
You can't be a king and a drug dealer at the same time. That's a contradiction. You can't be God, but yet a heroin addict. That's not the law of Ma'at. You can't be an original black man who knows that you are the king of your throne, a God of the universe, but then you engage in behavior that totally contradicts the word that proceeds forth out of your mouth. You can't be a queen black woman, but yet engage in activities that are totally contrary to your queendom. We have to understand that the behaviors that we now accept, we have to make sure that we get away from thinking like niggas. You can't be an individual who wants to show light to the world. You can't be a brother to go into the community and tell these individuals that you want them to understand a level of resurrection from how you went from being a drug dealer, from how I went to being a crack dealer, how I went from being a crack pusher into a brother who now understands that I have to align myself with the laws of Ma'at. I can't go in the street and act like them and expect them to respect me because their influence is more dominating. So what we have to do is change that perception. We have to make sure that we are the standard bearers of light. They should have every inclination to live like me. They should want to adopt my style of living. When they see me living the law of Ma'at, knowing where I came from, that should be enough attraction power to say, hey, I love what this brother's doing. I want to be like him. I'm tired of being in the streets. We have to let them know that they should be fed up with the condition that they're in. We need to plant a seed in their mind that it's almost time, it's do or die. Because if we adopt the behavior that they're adopting, then they're going to think they still have time to languish in a system of white supremacy and excel. But you can't excel in a system that's built to destroy you. In the conscious community, that's what we do. We are adopting the gang mentality. And we're actually giving people a pass. We should no longer give brothers and sisters a pass to display that type of behavior.
Gotcha.
I don't have to go out in the street and sag my pants as a part of my prison ministry in RBG. Hell no. I don't have to go out there and say, and tell them I'm going to smoke a blunt with you and sit you down and talk about black power. Hell no. I shouldn't have to go out there and tell them, okay, I'm going to drink a fifth of Hennessy with you, and then we're going to talk about this black power shit. Hell, you didn't see Minister Malcolm do it. Minister Malcolm X didn't go on the streets and say, let me smoke a blunt with you, bro, and let's build, and let's talk about this black power shit the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad got a nigga like me on. You didn't hear Malcolm X say that when he went in the street. You didn't hear the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad go out in the street and say, peace, my nigga. What's going on? Let's build a day. Let's go to the liquor store and get a gallon of gin, and we're going to sit back and blow some trees and pop a molly. You didn't hear that come from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but he was in the streets actually taking drug dealers and making them into men and women who had the ability to discipline themselves. You didn't see Marcus Garvey go on the street and say, hey, I want y'all niggas out here to join the UNIA. And guess what? the UNIA, we're going to be a group of niggas that going to push this real black power shit across the world and fuck all these old coon-ass niggas out here, man, going in the street, grabbing his nuts. You don't see a picture of Marcus Garvey out there grabbing his nuts in the street?
Are you listening?
Did you ever see a picture of Martin Luther King grabbing his nuts in the street, throwing up gang signs? You didn't see Huey P. Newton out there grabbing his nuts, throwing gang signs in the street? Ooh. Brother said, Dr. Minister, Huey P. talks about acculturation. This is when two cultures collide, leaving their less dominant one subservient to the dominant. We must stay solid to our culture when we approach brothers on the block. They gravitate to structure. The brother's 100% correct. And this is one of the most acculturated brothers that I know on my page. Listen, the way how we gain the trust and the respect of our people is not engaging in the activities that they engage in. Like the brother said, the dominant culture makes the less dominant culture subservient. So if you come into the RBG movement waving your gang flag, then which culture is subservient? Is it the RBG culture or is it the gang cultures? Because our two cultures are basically going to clash at one point in time, because the message that Pan-Africanism brings us and the message of a street organization that they bring to our society, those are two competing ideologies. So which one is going to win whenever those two ideologies clash? And so far, it seems as though the African or the Pan-African culture is losing, because we now let brothers adopt this gang culture into the movement. So until we strive to have our influence greater than what the gang cultures and the culture that was manufactured by the enemy, as long as we continue to allow brothers and sisters to maintain that level of niggerdom, and we make it acceptable and we embrace it, as long as we continue to allow them to control what Pan-Africanism is, then what we're going to do is we're going to start seeing gang wars under the guise of RBG.
Yep.
Thank you, brother. So keep using this medium for the political education session. Yes, brother, I definitely will. But in conclusion, remember, like I said, wisdom is not expecting people to understand your intent. It's anticipating how your intent will be perceived. So when we put things out in the universe, remember, people are perceiving your intent. It might get misconstrued. You might think that it's cool to, act like a nigga in the street. And you might think that it's cool, and you think that it's going to help people gravitate towards you, and you try to use it as a means to sneak your way into the unconscious community, and somehow you're going to have this magic, awakening amongst brothers and sisters, and they say they want to be like you, but history has proven that incorrect. I'm going to challenge you today, before I get off this live stream, show me one leader in history that has made a successful movement or built a successful movement off of emulating the activities and the mindset of brothers and sisters who are lost in the street. Just keep in mind, remember, the brothers and the sisters in the street, the reason why they have that mentality is because the information that they're acting upon is totally gleaned from white supremacy, through the imagery that they see on television, the things that we speak about, the things that we say, hey, You know, this is dumbing our children down. These people in the street are subservient to that culture that is built and portrayed on television. So now, show me where a successful movement has been built by us emulating the behavior that society has given our brothers and sisters in the street. I'm waiting on you. Remember, I've already debunked the fact, I've already talked about it didn't happen with Malcolm. Because Malcolm did not go on the street doing the same thing they did. Even though he could, because he came from that lifestyle. I came from that lifestyle. But I know one thing, like I said in my post, if I go on the street and I'm talking to a brother and sister about how I overcame and where I came from, and if there's an expectation about why I don't act like a nigga, or why I'm not smoking a blunt with them, or why we're not drinking together, and they want to know why I'm not engaging in that activity with them, guess what? I don't need their respect. And guess what? If they feel that I have to be doing the same thing that they're doing for me to gain my respect, guess what? I just won't gain their respect because I refuse to be another number in the South Carolina Department of Correction. Number 283533 is no longer in existence. I refuse to be inmate 98575-071 in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I refuse to hold that title anymore. That number 248335 in Charleston County Jail, guess what? I will never be that number again because I'm not going to be the one who says, I'm going to keep these things with me. I'm trying to let these things go. I want to let that mentality go. I want to let that behavior go. I want to let that way of thinking go. I don't want to hold on to anything that's going to put me back into a system of death and destruction. I don't want to be in a jail cell anymore. So I'd be damned if I still continue to mimic the behavior of those who are going down that route. And guess what? If they feel that I have to go and display that behavior to try to reach them, guess what? That's a goddamn lie. You will never see SHAKEM AHKET back in a prison cell after doing something dumb, trying to go out here and reach to you, thinking I gotta go and sell drugs and smoke weed with them to get a message across. Peace and black power. SHAKEM AHKET, SCRBG. I'm out. Black power.